Hello and welcome back to the Dumb Cunt Vlog, the vlog where I am the smart cunt and you are the dumb cunt. But really, it's just the vlog where I bitch about my job pretty much, as it seems like, because, my friends, there is an update or lack thereof, I guess, of the whole new manager situation at work. And by a lack of an update, I mean it's basically the same shit, except it's on a downward slippery slope, we could say. So if you remember from last week's 2 weeks ago vlog, the issue was that they were doing this whole new bullshit about the about the getting there like 5 minutes early to log on to the computer, so the computer says you're there, so you actually get paid. Well, that's just been ongoing. That's still just a pain in the ass. But then they moved everyone's desks, and it's like, why? Why would you do that? I had a desk, and I was happy there, and it was fine. And then they come and I come to work one day and I see my name is written on a different desk there, and I'm like, why? Why are we doing this? And the manager said it's because Jay wanted to organize everything, and they wanted to spread people around the office evenly. But you've been the manager for 2 weeks, and I've been here for 6 months, and I've sat at the same desk every day for 6 months, and that's been completely fine. Never caused any hassles, not. And then I go to the new desk, and obviously my shit's not set up there. It's just one thing after another. And it's been getting me down lately because, so what I used to love about doing this job was how it was, fucking easy, and nothing's really changed. It's always been the same shit where there's been, some bullshit problem that, I can't help the customer with because it's, don't have the authority to do so it becomes someone else's problem. Which is, fine because they still pay me. But I think, I felt inside my heart that, I started to give a fuck about, trying to help the customers. And I think that's where I went wrong. Because, up until then, I would, laugh at these other people at my job that get all, bent out of shape and frustrated trying to, help people and shit. And I'd just be there for the grift, just be there for the free money. And it was chill. That was chill. That was a good vibe. I was okay with that. I had my thing going. But I think it must have been, I do really think it's the change of desk, because I'm completely fine to put up with this fact that's a bullshit job, and I know it's a bullshit job, and I'm completely fine with that as long as I can look out the window. But then as soon as I moved away from the window seat, there's nothing left unless the distractions of the outside world have gone, and there's nothing but, this bullshit task of having to help the customer. Heaven forbid. That's not what we do here. We don't help people. We just chase them around until they give up, and then we call it a day. And, I think, I just need to get back in this mindset again. I need to get back to the mindset of not giving a fuck and doing a bad job. I've recently been, listening to this book. It's called Reality Transurfing. It's highly recommended, and it goes talking about I guess I better start at the start. It's a very good place to start. So basically, how every possible timeline that could ever possibly exist exists out there somewhere in the universe? Oh, what, you didn't? What, you're some sort of dumb cunt? Is that why you're watching this vlog? Well, read a Wikipedia page or something, cunt. So anyway, now that you know that every single possibility that could ever have happened in this universe has happened out somewhere there in multidimensional space, you imagine you got one dimension, you go back and forward. And you got 3 dimensions, what we live in. You can go backwards, forwards. You can even go up and down, but don't try too hard. You don't want to scare them. You can, and we are 3-dimensional beings, but we live in a fourth dimension of time, but we can't control our movement through time. It happens to us. No matter how hard you try, you will never, ever, ever, ever be able to control that, and fuck anyone who thinks they can, to be honest. I mean, go to Mars, hang out with Elon. I bet that's fun. But for the rest of us normal people, you will never control your movement through four-dimensional time. But just because we can't control it, it doesn't mean that greater dimensions exist. So if you imagine the line back and forward or from the past to the future, imagine it's a plane as well, like a plane, a two-dimensional plane, where as you're moving forward, it comes up to a decision point, and you can either take this path or that path. And depending on what path you take, your timeline, the one that you're consciously alive in, diverts off to here. But it doesn't mean that the other timeline stopped existing. It still exists there in five-dimensional space. Yeah, five. That's where we're up to. Five-dimensional space. It still exists somewhere on this page, but we just can't see it. It's like an ant crawling along a piece of paper. He can't see what's above him. He can only see because he's a two-dimensional being. We are three-dimensional beings moving through time. So we are only able to experience like a cross-section of this dimension at any given point in time, just the present. But it doesn't mean that the other parts on this plane don't exist. They still exist out there. But this is only for one person. Now imagine a time cube. Are you with me, boys? Boys and girls, your time cube, a six-dimensional object. Now, the thing about the time cube is that, like, so for the time plane, we were talking about you making one decision. You either go left or you go right. But could you imagine we could go up or down? Because you are not the only one making decisions. There's infinite amount of beings, or maybe like 8 billion, infinite amount of beings making decisions with their own free will in this universe. And as they to go left or right along their time planes, their own time planes, they interact with you on your own time plane. So like, there's a version where like you can't control their decisions, just like they can't control yours, but they all intersect into places. So that time-space reality you are experiencing, we are all experiencing right now, because we are all three-dimensional beings. This one is the one where all of us on our own individual time planes have made decisions. We have all made the decisions that where we all landed up right here in this point in time, space, reality. In our, if you imagine a six-dimensional time cube, the cross-section of time we are all experiencing right now is thank you. It's thank you to everyone making the decisions that led us to here. So to recap, timeline, forwards and backwards, past, future. A time plane, you make decisions left and right on this time plane, this piece of paper. And a time cube, where two people, different points in time, different points in space, actually same point in time, different points in space, making up two different decisions, and their paths intersect with each other. That's how you meet someone on the street. Both of you made decisions to be at the same coffee shop at the same time, and voila, the meeting just so happens to be in this time-space reality. But everything else inside this box exists. And the idea about this book, Reality Transurfing, is that though we are naturally predisposed to only be able to view our cross-section in this greater time-space reality, it does not mean that we have no control over where our timeline goes. Now we can make decisions that bring us into a more positive timeline, which is better for us, or we can make decisions that bring us to a timeline that is worse, which is not exactly a revolutionary concept if we're being fucking honest here. For example, if you spend your whole lifetime doing drugs, then you're going to have a great time. But if you spend your whole lifetime not doing drugs and like going to work, then it's going to suck. So we already know this basically, but at a greater level of awareness of this basic fact, we are able to project your thoughts forward. It's a revolutionary concept, I know. thinking about the future. That's not something that people do these days. You can project your thoughts forward, think about where you want to be, and then like retroactively work out what the steps you have to take, the decisions you have to make to get there. Because I don't know if you realize this, you probably don't. We are only really conscious for a very, very small portion of our lifetime here on planet Earth. Most of the time, we are going through the motions. Most of the time, you don't think about, like, waking up in the morning and putting on your shirt, getting a coffee and dragging yourself to work. Maybe you're, like, thinking about some bullshit while it's going on. Like, oh, my God, at work, Deborah's going to be there, and I hate Deborah. She's such a cunt. But, like, you're not these are all just, like, thoughts that are playing on like the movie reel in the background while like life is happening around you. And this is how 90% of people spend 90% of their life. It's only in like these moments when you're standing in front of the sandwich shop on your way to work and you see a donut and you see an egg salad sandwich and the decision comes there like, oh, should I have this or should I have that? That, my friend, is the intersections where it takes your life down different pathways. And it's an easy example what I'm talking about here, diet and exercise-wise. Obviously, if you eat the egg salad sandwich, you're going to have a shit time. If you have the donut, you're going to have a good morning. We all know this. But extrapolated into something like more meaningful. Say, for example, you're deciding whether to follow your dream making music or to stay at university studying an economics degree. Now, this is a much bigger decision, and it will lead your life down much bigger pathways. And the thing is, there is a version of you that didn't have the balls to follow your dream. That is still at uni maybe, or working some bullshit office job at a bank. And then that version of you is still out there in the alternative space, so to say. And there's the version of you out there that didn't even bother. Like, there's a version of you out there that quit school at 12 and did nothing but practice music for 10 years. And by the time he was 18, was an international superstar. There's if you can imagine it, it's out there. That's what imagination is, you see. All imagination is projecting your mind into the alternative space and seeing what these alternative realities look like. They're all real. If you can imagine something, it's real. It may be far-fetched, so to say, which means it's further away from your current space in your current space in the six-dimensional time cube. The more far-fetched the idea, the further away it is from your current reality, but it is there somewhere. Now, we are not alone in this 4-dimensional, 5-dimensional, 6-dimensional time-space reality. There is a thing called pendulums. And you can imagine pendulums, they swing back and forth, that's what they do. But they stabilize, right? They stabilize energy. If you put a bunch of pendulums together and you swing one of them, you swing them all out of order, they will like naturally align out of time, in time, from out of time, into time, with each other. You try it. Like, go to your pendulum store, buy 20 pendulums, do it. What you need it for? Who cares? Why do you care what I need my 20 pendulums for? You fucking cunt. I just like them. Hang them up in your room and swing, let them go. Then you go get a coffee. Come back. And you'll see they're all aligned, backwards and forwards, in time with each other. They stabilize. Pendulums stabilize by their swing back and forth. Another thing is that if you want to keep a pendulum going backward and forward, you need to express energy onto it. It will eventually slow down and stop. It needs energy to be pushed. It needs energy to push it back. And you can imagine that these sort of energy pendulums exist in a dimension above us. You see, you're aware of the concept of memes, right? You know what a meme is, right? It's a reproducible thought. So, if I think about the game, suddenly you're thinking about the game and we've all lost the game. If I'm thinking about waking up in the morning and going to my job to earn money for capitalism, so I can spend that money at the store, and you're thinking about that. There's nothing real about capitalism. There's nothing real about communism. These things don't exist in the real world. I can't go touch a capitalism. But you'd be an idiot if you said it wasn't real, would you? Because the fact that enough people believe in it makes it real. We're all aware of this. This is easy. This is 101, you idiot. We're aware of this. Capitalism is a pendulum, you see. It's a thought form that exists just because we think of it. And the nature of a pendulum is, first of all, it stabilizes. It takes reality, this big old mess, and orders it into a set of rules. Second, it is destructive by its nature. And the reason why it's destructive is because it requires energy. It drains energy. Where does it get this energy from? It gets its energy from its adherents. These are people that believe in it. People who believe in capitalism wake up every day and go to a job they hate so they can earn money to buy things they don't need and impress people they don't like. These are the adherents. And the thing is, we talked about the rules, these stabilizing things that have rules. If you follow the rules, the more you follow the rules of these so-called pendulums, the more you'll be rewarded. And the favorite way that these pendulums do to reward people is through money. And we're talking about capitalism right now as a broader spectrum, but anything in your day-to-day life, any thought form is a pendulum. If you have a group of friends, that's a pendulum. It's there's, I'm sure, social things, social rules within your own friends group that your friends will or won't accept. Like, if you called one of your friends the N-word, just for example, maybe they wouldn't be so happy about that. Maybe if you continued breaking the rules of the so-called social rules of your friends group, you would no longer be part of that friends group. If everybody in the friends group decided that they no longer believed in the group, then the group would no longer exist. And although it's hard to imagine that a group of friends could be destructive, in the technical term it is, because it requires energy from the people to put in. Now, it's not to say that it's not worth it. That's not what I'm saying. It's if you never involve yourself in any of these pendulums, well then, you'd be a boring, lonely piece of shit, because that's all it is. Anywhere where two or more people come together to have like a thought that is shared among more or one person, that's a pendulum. And it's called a pendulum because it gains energy for when people push it. They're on board with it. Like capitalism, they're on board with capitalism. I love this. I love my job. I love my boss. And I love spending money on bullshit. But then you can push against it. And this is equally as valid. All these people that are pushing against it, they're like, no, we hate it. We want it to stop. We are going to eat the rich. All these people pushing against it, they give energy to it, just as if they were pushing for it, because the more they push against it, the more the adherents push back. It's a swings back and forth, and the more energy you put into hating it, the bigger it swings back. Say, for example, just hypothetical, say there was hypothetically some pandemic going around right now, and the government wanted to slow it down, and so the government had the idea, the thought form that we could lock everybody inside their houses. This is an idea, and then the people push back against it because they're like, no, I want my freedom. I want to go outside and not look at my screen for a little bit. I want to touch the grass. They push back against that. And say, for example, everybody that does that, just happens to get COVID. Or this hypothetical pandemic going around. And then this pushback inspires the government to put even harsher lockdown restrictions, and then people push back against those harsher lockdown restrictions, and then more people push back against it. And then more people get the virus, and the government has to put You see how this is something that could possibly happen in our real world out here? That's the example of how pendulums can control our lives, because they just they feed. It's like natural selection. They're not organic beings, but they evolve, and they do have a struggle for the fittest. They struggle for adherence. They fight amongst each other, and they fight to see who can capture the most energy, because there is a finite energy out there. It's literally the Matrix. It's we are living in the pod. We are eating the bugs, and the robots are the pendulums. The robots is capitalism, is communism, is the ideology. The robots is the lockdown, is the coronavirus. This is the robots that are sucking the energy from you. From you, you dumb cunt. Bet you feel stupid. Now, what does this mean for you and me? Well, it means at my job, we can imagine that a job, because any job is a pendulum. You go there, you put your time and effort and your soul in, and what do you get out of it? You get some money. That's what they do to reward the people. And if you continue to break the rules of your job, and not even the officially written down rules, like, I'm sure if you got drunk at work, you wouldn't last very long there. But even like the social values, the social codes, like just what everyone's expected to do, like if you just start processing things in a way that they don't want you to do, if your job is to make pallets with like 4 pieces of wood on the top, and you start making pallets with 3 pieces of wood on the top, there's going to be like, what the fuck, dude? It's not what we do here. You won't last there very long. You have to adhere to the set of structures. And it's what I've been feeling lately, that this pendulum, this work pendulum, has been pushing on me. Like they started with the whole show up 5 minutes early for work, but we're not going to pay you bullshit. And then they did the whole, and we're going to tell you where to sit now. You don't get to choose where you sit. We're going to tell you where to sit. Just some more bullshit. And the other day, I went to go put my food in the microwave, and then I went to the toilet, and my boss was like, Aaron, you got to watch the food in the microwave while it's cooking in case it catches on fire. Because if it does, we'll all be in trouble. And it's like, do you think this is the first time I've used a microwave? Like, do you think, like, it's possible? Blows my mind. This is what they do. They push. The pendulums push because they're waiting for you to push back on them so they get more energy. Because you see, if I just, you know what I said? Yes, boss. That's what I said. Yes, okay. Because, like, can you imagine what would happen if I tried to argue with that? Because of course it's bullshit. Anybody with a brain knows it's bullshit, but it's not about the microwave. It's not about this 0.1% chance that the microwave might catch fire. It's about power and control. Like, that's the real reason behind all this. It's not about we're gonna organize people's desks so it's more synergistic and efficient. As I know, it's about power and control. They want to new management, 2 weeks. They want to show who's boss. Now we're going to tell everybody where to sit. And you push back against it, they push back harder. The pendulum keeps on swinging, baby. And this is all knowing about the fact that I only have a few more weeks there, actually a few more days there. Thursday is my last day. I had a chat in the last vlog about how I didn't want to be a stick in the mud anymore. And boy, is it tough. Boy, is it tough, because it did say in this book, Reality Transurfing, that as soon as you become aware of these pendulums and as soon as you like the decision, because this is the only way to beat them, that you can't fight them because you make them stronger. The only way to beat them is to just ignore them, really. Not even try to actively ignore them, because if you see it there and you're like, oh, go away, I don't want to be involved, then that's still engaging. That's still fighting. You just have to be like, oh, okay, got to go with the flow. Oh, you're going to tell me where to sit? Okay. You're going to tell me how to use a microwave? Okay. It's not even about being a cuck or a simp to it either, because then you become an adherent. It's not about that. It's about it's about going with the flow, knowing what the deal is. You follow the rules, you get paid, but not without trying to become one of these adherents of the pendulum, that. For example, the bosses who are out here pushing these bullshit rules. That's the example of an adherent. And especially considering that come Thursday, I'm most likely never going to see any of these people ever again. I'll still be working with the same company, but like in a different state, with different management. Who knows what the future will hold over there? Who knows if I'll be able to operate their microwaves, you know? But if I was to get into some bullshit argument about these bullshit policies, then I just wouldn't have a job anymore. I'd be thrown out of the pendulum all by myself, all by my lonesome, with nothing but this shirt to my name. And yeah, that's just been the ongoing battle inside my head. The book did say that, like, as soon as you became aware of these pendulums, and as soon as you did try to step back from them, to no longer engage, they're going to try as hard as they can to push you, because as soon as they, like, it's not like they're conscious, it's just like the plumbing, the energetic plumbing of the universe. It's like, and because they struggle for adherence and energy, if they feel like, you know, you're losing their grip, they'll try harder, they'll push back harder against you for a reaction, because they are desperate for this energy, because without this energy, they are nothing. This is all they are. They are just energy. They are just energy from you and me, either pushing for this pendulum or pushing up against this pendulum. So if you, like, take a step back and be chill, just let things go, just watch the pendulum swing. They hate that because, yeah, they can't survive without the people pushing. Just stop pushing. Just stop. It sounds easy, but I can tell you from experience, from this week of experience, it's not as easy said as done. You know what I mean? It's not easy. Another thing, reality transurfing. Excess potential. Do you know what that is? Do you know what that means? Excess potential. When you put so much thought and energy behind an idea, you think to yourself every day, I'm going to be rich, I'm going to be famous, and everyone's going to love me. But it's, like, not true. It's just an idea. This is the same thing we were talking about imagination, how it exists somewhere out there. It does exist out there, a version of you that is rich, famous, and successful. But the more far-fetched the idea, the bigger difference in space from where you are now to where your imagined self is. The bigger that difference is, the more excess potential it is. It's like excess potential energy. If you take a rock or an apple higher up, it gains more potential energy. And it's the same with the universe. If you spend your time imagining, creating this thought form of a version of yourself that's so far out of here, the further it is away, the more excess potential energy is, and the more it wants to slap back. And how it can do this is mostly, so if you imagine, like, you spend every day imagining that, yes, I'm going to be rich, yes, I'm going to be rich, or even just, like, you know, putting so much energy into this idea of yourself being rich without it actually, you know, manifesting, coming true, or anything like that. The universe will try to negate this, because it's all about balance, right? It's all about high pressure moving to areas of low pressure. The bigger this excess potential, the more it's going to want to snap back, and how it snaps back is by shocking you, maybe by losing all your money, maybe by putting you in a position where you no longer have the ability to believe that this could be something possible, and therefore reducing the excess potential energy, like crippling you, financially ruining you till it breaks your spirit. And then balance has once again been restored. And it's not impossible to, like, it's not to say that just by imagining where you're going to be, like, it's going to, the opposite will happen. Like, the problem is when you put importance into this goal, when you think to yourself, it is so important that this thing happens, then it's most likely not going to happen. Like, in fact, the more important you think a thing is, the worse it becomes. And it's the same, it's the pendulum thing, once again, because the more importance you put on something, the more you can imagine yourself pushing for or against this pendulum. Like at me at work, like if I put so much importance on this, like these like $3 that I might be losing from like you know, being 2 minutes late or something. Like so much importance on this $3 that like it becomes such a big deal because I'm creating my own pendulum, right? I'm like, you know, creating this idea, and if I get everybody else on my team to like think as well, and we all go and confront management and get the union, and it becomes a big old thing, you know, over something so small and insignificant. It's because we put our importance on it. And by doing that, it's what creates these pendulums, which, like I said, they're destructive by nature. Whereas if you were to, you know, have these ideas of like I said, you know, thinking of where you want to be in this timeline, in this time cube, thinking of where you want to be and retroactively working back from it and making decisions, the more importance you put on a decision, the harder it will be to make that decision. If you think to yourself like, oh, unless I go to the gym, I'm going to be a fat, slobby piece of shit because this is so important that I go to the gym. And then, you know, you build it up in your mind, or it's going to be this like immense task, right? But if you just wake up and think to yourself, oh, today I'm going to go to the gym, and you do it. And then once you're there, you don't think about like, oh, like, do I have to do this? Do I have to do leg day? Am I lifting the dumbbells right? Am I doing it correctly? Are people making fun of me? You know, you put all this importance. The more importance you put on it, the harder it becomes. If you just do it without thinking about it, that's how everything gets done, right? And the book uses the analogy of like, is the difference between desire and intention. Like, intention is what builds things, but desire is creating this excess potential. And the difference between desire and intention is that like, I can desire to go to the gym without intending to go to the gym. Like, I can lie in bed and desire going to the gym all I want, but unless I take that first step, then I have no intention of actually going to the gym. And that's what the intention is, actually taking action, right? And it's that action that you take that it negates this excess potential, because you might have your dream to be out here and this much excess potential. And there's only two ways. Either you can stay still and the dream can come and slap you in the face, or you can continue to put energy into creating this reality, and then through the power of your intention, moving closer towards it. So, but like, it's not going to be easy, right? If the gap's this big, right? Can you imagine how hard it is to move from where you are here to where you are there? But, you know, if you just do this, and maybe this, and then, oh, look, now we're halfway there. Oh, look, we're almost there. See, it was nothing. Nothing. It was so easy. But you're out here putting yourself through all of this mental torture because you're not where you want to be. You idiot, you're already there. Look around you. It's a beautiful day. The plant is green. We're still in Australia. You're not that important. And like, why would anyone think that the universe owes them anything special just because you are you? Like, millions of people, everybody thinks they are you. Literally. Someone wakes up and they're like, I am me. You wake up and you're like, I am me. You think you are you, they think you are you. Like, you is not that special. Literally. And thinking that you're deserved anything special from the universe is what creates this excess potential. Now, I'd call it resistance, where that's what it felt like, where like I'd imagine where I want to be, you know, music wise, like money, finance wise. I imagined where I want to be, and I'd like live in this daydream inside my head. And then I'd look at myself where I am, like the amount of followers I have. Or even like just like the quality of my music at the time. And it would like hurt me that like it wasn't where I wanted it to be. There was like such a big gap between where I was and where I wanted it to be. And that's the excess potential right there. And if I hadn't have discovered this book, I probably would have lived the rest of my life in there, just like battling this uphill battle of like where, trying to get to where I want to be, right? And just putting like this energy out into the universe of like dissatisfaction. And everyone knows this, obviously, that the energy you put out in the universe is what you get back, because the universe is basically a mirror. Like everything in your life, every situation, every person in your life that you ever meet is just a reflection of yourself. So if you spend your life being an angry cunt, then like you're like, why is everyone so angry? That's nice, you bro. And like if like being a confrontational person at work, which I'm really trying my best not to be. It's hard. But like then like, why is everything so hard? Why do people keep, putting things in my way, when really like, that was, it's a reflection of like the energy I put out there. And it's the same if you put out this energy of like, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm not where I want to be, then you'll never be good enough and you'll never be where you want to be, literally. Think about it. If you spend your, if you're in the current present moment thinking to yourself these thoughts of like irrelevant of where you actually want to be and irrelevant of where you actually are, but if your present thought is, I am not where I want to be, that's the present thought in the moment. And if that's the present thought you've had for the past year, why would you think it would be any different in the future? It's already different. Where you were a year ago and where you are now is different. Where you wanted to be a year ago and where you want to be now is different. These are irrelevant variables. What the constant is that a year ago you thought you weren't where you want to be, and today you think you are not where you want to be. So why would you think it would be this would change? Regardless of where you were, regardless of where you wanted to be, because it's not about that. It's all of that is just a reflection of your inner thoughts. One thing I find funny that I think about is like this truism online, right? Of like how it says, like you can't be racist towards white people. And I know, topic switch up, aren't we? Yeah, but the reason why I was thinking about it, because like on the podcast, obviously, we make a lot of funny jokes about people of different races, right? And there was just like a passing joke, right, where like being racist against people like white people, oh no, don't worry about it, that's nothing, right? And it's just like the like give an opinion, right? And I'm sure that you've met someone that like, some white guy who like, actually, believes that like people are being like racist to him because he's white. And those people aren't fun to hang out with, are they? Those people usually suck. And like, I'm trying to actually think about the arguments that these sorts of people would make, right? Like they'd be like, hiring practices, or I don't get to say the N-word, just some bullshit, like something that's not even like, what real racism is. Like, I can honestly say I can't remember ever experiencing racism in my life. And I'm sure that's probably different. No, I guarantee that's different for a white person living in Asia or a white person living in South Africa, but that's not my life. And the only sort of thing I have experienced is jokes, but I like, in case you haven't noticed from the podcast, like I like racist jokes. I think they're funny, and there's nothing funnier than, a racist joke at your own expense, in my opinion. And there's a lot of funny things to make fun of white people about, and like, I don't know, like, all the girls are witches and fuck each other, and all the dudes are incels and fuck their socks. Like, I think that's very much a white person thing, right? Like, what else can you say? Oh, we're the school shooters, right? That's the race of the school shooters. Our food sucks, which is why we always steal food from everyone else's culture. We think mayonnaise is too spicy. Yeah. one thing I was thinking about is like, you know how like the Asians have this idea of like this obsession with face, you know, it's about like maintaining face. So like they will like literally lie to you rather than admit embarrassment or shame. And like, you know, that's what it is. Like face is just lying. That's what it is. Like China refusing to admit like that like coronavirus like started there because like because like they didn't want to lose face, right? And if like the whole culture is built of face, the whole culture is built of lying, right? But it had me thinking like, I mean, like that's the same for like white culture, but just in different ways. Because like you wouldn't say that like, you know, there's no lying in our culture, but it's like different because like the fact that like face is a big thing in Asian cultures, it's like everyone knows it's a lie because everyone's playing the same game. You know, you go to someone, you're like, oh, hello, it's a pleasure to meet you, and he's like, it's a pleasure to meet you too. Like, but everyone knows that's a lie, right? You wouldn't just tell someone to fuck off, but like you basically are. And it's not like that doesn't exist in Western culture, because it most certainly does, but in different ways. Like, I mean, for the most part, at least in our personal lives, like we just give a whole lot less of a fuck about face. Like, if you think like Westerners really, we have no shame. Like that's not something that we give a fuck about. Like we have no problem, like, you know, embarrassing ourselves in public or like on the world stage. You know, we just don't give a fuck like what you think. Like that's like a very common, but like I think like a very like Western idea to not give a fuck what you think. Like it's something that we take for granted, right? It's become a cliche in our culture. Like I don't give a fuck what you think. But like that's unique to Western culture. In other cultures, they give a fuck what other people think about them. And I think that is something that's like that really does set Western culture apart and like has created this sense of like, you know, personal individual freedom, and has also created this sense of like innovation. Like even though like it's very obvious we're not the smartest or the most hardworking race, we are the most innovative race. Like it comes from like you know, laziness is the precursor to innovation, because you just keep doing the same thing over and over again, wouldn't you? Because like it doesn't matter how much work it takes, because it's just what we do. But like it takes a lazy person to be like, nah, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to come up with some bullshit roundabout way to get this done for me. And that's innovation. That's actually how the entire Western capitalist system works, doesn't it? It's like, no, I don't want to do that. I want to come up with a way to trick someone else into doing that for me. Yeah, that's how this culture was built. This is how we put a man on the moon. But whereas a culture with no shame couldn't possibly hold itself together if it wasn't replaced by something different. And what Westerners have, like, we don't have shame, what we have is guilt, which might sound similar, but it's actually the exact opposite. Because you see, shame is, I feel bad because you think I'm bad. Whereas guilt is, I feel bad because I think I'm bad. If you didn't have either shame or guilt, people would just be bad. They need something to keep them on, to give them like a social punishment for stepping out of line, for like stepping off the pendulum. If they didn't break if there wasn't a consequence for breaking the social rules, they just do whatever the fuck they want, and that would be no way for any pendulum, any culture, race, which is all, these are pendulums. Cultures, races, civilizations, they're a pendulum. And they need their adherents to stick and continue giving their energy. So there needs to be some sort of punishment for stepping off the ride, which manifests in different forms in the East and the West. Now, it didn't always used to be like this. Like, shame is a very society-based. You know, it's feeling bad because other people think you're bad. Guilt is a very individual-based. It's feeling bad because I think I'm bad. And what changed, what was different, was the Catholic Church in Europe. What they wanted is they wanted to break up the family structure. They wanted to atomize the individual. They wanted to they wanted to get rid of because everybody was part of different families, part of different clans, part of different tribes, very community outlook. But the Catholic Church didn't want that. For their pendulum to succeed, the Catholicism pendulum, they needed everybody to believe in the same code of laws that like Moses supposedly gave. They needed everybody to believe in the Catholic Jesus, not the other Jesus, but their specific Jesus. And you can't do this if everybody already has their own structures. You need to take that away and then give them something else to replace it with. And so they had to get rid of this. They had to get rid of these family structures, these clan and community-based structures, and they had to replace it with a top-down. This is what morality is. You don't go to your village elder for morality. You don't go to your family for moral advice. You come to the church. You come to the Bible. You go to the church to listen to some guy read to you what the Bible says because you don't speak Latin. You don't get to understand what this means. We have to tell you what it means. And that's control. And that's the Catholic Church had total control. And so what they did to replace the shame punishment is they had to replace it with guilt. They didn't say that it's like, Asian cultures, they really don't have guilt the way that Western cultures do. Like China will lock a minority group away in a concentration camp and feel no guilt for it. Like they could feel shame if it like turns out that they start seeing some negative consequences for this bullshit from the international community, which is so far yet to happen. But you can't get to them with guilt, which is what the Westerners have been trying to do. They're like, don't you feel bad, China, for all these things you're doing to these terrible people? No, they don't give a fuck. It doesn't work for them because the difference is that that to keep the Western society in line, the Pope had to give you some sort of personal God, a personal Jesus, a God that's always watching you, so that there's no getting away from that. There's no doing it away, somewhere where no one's going to see. Because like if it's a shame-based culture, it doesn't matter as long as no one sees it. But in a guilt-based culture, God's always watching. You can never get away with doing something evil. Like you can do something evil and no one, maybe no one sees it, but you know it happened, and God knows it happened, and Jesus knows what happened. And you will go to hell for eternity unless you atone for that, unless you pay the indulgences to the church. And this is the seeds of guilt in Western culture. This is the seeds where it has grown into a very fruitful tree. You are plant stupid seeds, you get stupid fruit, so to say. And this is why, it's literally called white guilt. The idea that someone in the past of your race did something terrible, and now you should feel guilty for it, and you should bend over backwards and flagellate yourself to appease to God, because that's what you're doing it to. That's who you're doing it for. It's the personal God that sees everything, that watches everything you do. That you should feel guilty for the position of power you have. Now, you don't feel shame for it. That's the difference. People be like, I feel ashamed. You don't feel ashamed because you don't give a fuck about what other people think of your place in society. You give a fuck because it makes me feel bad. It makes me feel bad on the inside that I have to see all these poor people and I'm wealthy and they are not, and I am privileged and they are not. It's not shame. If anything, they should be ashamed because they're the ones without. They're the ones who look like shit. They're the ones that smell like shit. They're the ones who don't have all the nice toys, the latest treats. They should feel ashamed, but they don't, because shame isn't part of our culture. And we live in a society where people will go on the street, make fools of themselves in front of millions. They will go make a fool of themselves on camera in front of an audience of millions, and we will see that kid and be like, oh yeah, give him $1 million. I like that. I like that. You go to an Asian culture, you try to do the same shit, you go to jail. you don't do that shit. You don't do social experiments in China, right? You go to jail. You do that in Australia, you do that in America, YouTube front page, millionaire. It is the best thing about our culture that we have no shame. It truly is. You like, look at me. Pink hair, right? This is not a thing that happens. You know, people look at you funny. People look at me funny, but I don't care. I think it's great. Yeah, like, if they're looking at me funny, it means they're looking at me. And yeah, that is really a very Western individualistic mindset. It's liberalism, really, the hyper fixation on the individual. And that's really where the woes of this Western society come from. It's the hyperfixation on the individualism, the excess potential, the excess importance, the idea that you yourself is the center of the universe. I was having this conversation with Sam, my Indian roommate, about the difference between Western and Indian culture, and I said that I believe that Indian culture is very fatalistic, which means that they believe that things are the way because this is the way they are. Like, he tells me from his meditation master, the philosophy of the world, the philosophy of the time, is that it's a big circle, and everything will always come back around. You know, things will go up, things will get bad, but things will come better, things will come back around. And that is the opposite. It's fatalistic, right? Because there's nothing you can do to change it. It will always be a circle. And the Western culture completely rejects this idea. We're like, no, fuck that. No, it's a straight line, cunt. Starts here, ends here. Upward slope. That's what it is. You know? You just got to keep getting better and better and better and better and burning more coal and having more things and more money and more things. Always an upward trajectory. And just like in India, when they were struck by like a culture that, you know, didn't believe in the fatalistic attitude, that was all about exploitation, which is what happened when the Westerners came to India. They didn't have the same sort of respect for the cyclical nature of time. It was all about exploitation and upwards mobility, and taking things from other people to make more things, to take more things from other people to make more things. Just a endless growth mindset. And just as the Indian culture had a severe shock, wasn't able to reconcile this growth-based mindset, the Western mindset was not able to reckon with the logical conclusion of what a growth-based mindset led to, which is what we saw at the end of World War II, right? Even later, like it was still petering along. If you could say that we're peaking now. Like it's a big call to make, but like we had the three major Western philosophies entering World War II. You had two exit. Fascism, you know, didn't make the cut. The idea that you could strive for a perfect human being, that you could cut down, you could have a perfect system, and to do that was to remove degeneracy, was to remove undesirable people, undesirable ideas from your system, to narrow down the Western culture into a very specific way. Everyone looks like this, everyone thinks like this, and everyone's motivated for this. And that did not survive because it reaches its logical conclusion. Like the only way for fascism to survive is if there's someone to fight against. And as soon as, like I said in the last vlog, as soon as that one side wins, they need to make an enemy of everybody else to the left of it, so they can have someone to continue. It narrows until there's no one left, until the tippy top of the pyramid is outweighed by the base of the pyramid and it collapses. Now, we left World War II. There was two systems left. There was liberalism and communism. Now, communism fell victim to the same plight as fascism did, but on the other extreme, on the left extreme. Just like how the fascists needed an external group to fight, the commies did too, because they didn't actually produce anything. Like, communism can be successful when there's a blueprint to copy things from, because like it's very easy when you have an agrarian society, everybody lives on a farm, to build a few factories and be like, okay, you shit kicker farm workers, now you work at the factory and you make tractors, and the tractors we put back on the farms, increase production. It's very easy to do this when you have a very low baseline and an exact goal to get to, which is why the Soviet Union and China, when they went through their communist revolutions, had such exponential growth of economic output, but it hits a limit. It hits a limit of where it can go, because you can't create a perfect system. That's what the communists really wanted to do. They wanted to create a state-run system where the state controls everything, because we are smart and you are dumb, and we tell you how to best allocate your resources. Because they are not your resources. They are everyone's resources, and they don't belong to you. They belong to us. That's the ideology they use to sell it to you. But it's not about that. It's never about that. It's about power. And it's about, we have the power to tell you to do things because we think it's going to be best for you, but really the best for us. And like I said, this is very easy to do when you have an agrarian society and you know that you have to build factories. It's very easy. But then as soon as you've got the factories, it suddenly becomes very complicated, because it's hard enough for a single business to run their own factory, right? That shit's tough. You've got to go to uni for that shit. But when like a single government's kind of trying to control a complex industrialized economy, it once again topples under the weight of the pyramid, which leaves one last pendulum, one last Western pendulum to survive the rest, the end of history, so they call it. Liberalism, but specifically neoliberalism, which is what we are living in now. You see, liberalism had to play a bargain, because our pure liberalism, once again, it's a upside down pyramid. The idea that you narrow it down, you nuclearize everything from like from the family group to the individual, from the clan to the family to the nuclear family to the individual, where we are now, really. Everyone's living in the pod, everyone's eating the bugs. This is the logic, like what we're seeing right now. Coronavirus lockdowns, printing money out of nowhere. This is the logical conclusion of liberalism. This is 1945 for the fascists. This is 1992 for the commies. We're here. Where is it going to go from here? No one makes anything anymore. No one works in productive jobs anymore. That all happens somewhere else. No one in the cities where liberalism thrives makes any of this shit. And it was a game. It was a grift that was running for a very long time, very successfully, made a lot of people very rich, until all the lockdowns happened, and then suddenly everyone's out of a job. And suddenly everybody realizes that their job was bullshit and they never had to do it in the first place. Their job never amounted to anything. The taps kept running. The food trucks kept rolling in. Somehow all of this stuff keeps happening without their need of them to go run their bullshit job, running this bullshit hamster wheel for treats. Suddenly everybody realizes that wait, all this money was just printed out of thin air anyway, and they could have done this the entire time. They could have given out free money to everyone the entire time, but they didn't. And then as soon as they decided that the COVID virus is, as soon as it's not even gone, it's still here. But as soon as they decided that everyone stopped caring enough about it anymore, they decided they can turn off the money tap. Why? Why? Just why? Why is this the system that we're living in? And they call it like the Great Resignation, right? Where especially here in developed countries, where pre-lockdown, post-lockdown, all the big capitalists, all the big industrialists want us to go back to work, to go back to the bullshit fast food jobs, the bullshit Uber driving jobs that no one wants to do anymore, because they realize that this is a bullshit job. They had a taste of what it was like not to have to put yourself through this bullshit, and they don't want to go back. There's more jobs than unemployed people in America right now. There's more jobs than unemployed people here right now. But no one wants to do these jobs because they realize that it's not worth it. What they get out of putting their energy into this pendulum, to keep this pendulum swinging, they ain't getting it back. They're stepping away. They're not fighting it. There's no revolutions in the streets about this. There's revolutions in the street about other things, which I talked about earlier. But there's no revolution in the street about this, about the Great Resignation. It's just people deciding they don't want to play this game anymore. They just step back. And this is why I truly think we're getting to the end of whatever this great grift is. Like, you look in America, it's easy to see that the system, the pyramid is toppling from the top down. You have like the stock market extended all-time highs, and it's been propped up by just the Federal Reserve printing money to put these to keep the curve going up, keep it going up. It always has to go up, but why? And like, what are you producing? You're not producing anything. Like it's like you can judge the healthiness of a stock. It's called like the price to earnings ratio, which is how much money does this company earn compared to how much does the stock cost. And ever since lockdowns have happened, it's just been like the prices keep going up, but these companies aren't making any more money. If they are, it's all inflation. They're not making anything new. They're not growing. You see, all of this wealth is consolidated into smaller and smaller companies. You see, like Apple, the biggest company in the world. You see Tesla, a company that like how many Teslas do you see out there? You know, Tesla is like 10 times the size of Ford on paper. How many Teslas do you see on the street? I see like one a week. How many Fords do you see on the street? They're everywhere. You know, it's bullshit. It's a bullshit economy propped up on bullshit fake money that isn't real, doesn't mean anything. Just so people can keep watching the number go up. That's all they want to do. They will stick their heads in the sand for anything else as long as that number goes up. And it gets to a point where like it's not economics making this number go up. It's not production making this number go up. It's printing fake money out of air that makes the number go up. And we've seen how this goes. We've seen what happens when you do this. And we're about to see what happens when you do this in 2021. It's your boy. Oh, I thought that was going to end dramatically. Oh well.